Yo, what is going on, my fellow weebs? Chrono here, and welcome back to the channel. So today we'll be going over add-on skills. Everything you need to know about starting them up, choosing between the add-on skills that you want to go ahead and use, how to properly level them up, and any other tips that I can think of along the way. But before we jump into that, if you guys are new here, as always, my name is Chrono. I primarily cover PSO2 content. Would much appreciate a subscribe as we work our way towards that 10K mark, hopefully by the end of this year. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this. So I'm gonna do my best not to yap for too long because add-on skills aren't super complicated and the idea behind them is pretty straightforward. Really, you have two different types of add-on skills. You have just damage add-on skills and you have utility-based add-on skills. I have utility kind of in a large umbrella because you have defensive, offensive, all different types of utility, and it's all up to the individual. It doesn't directly translate into damage, but it can translate into some form of damage. So there's a few things I wanted to kind of go over with you guys. Plus, it's 2024. It's been a while since we talked about add-on skills. We've had a new class added in since then, and they've given us new ways of getting add-on skills as well as rolling add-on skills. So I want to mention all of those things in case you're someone who's a bit newer with the new player campaign going on, letting everyone level up. You can, link your friends a current video as opposed to one of my older ones. Granted, the older one is still mostly correct. There's just a few things that I want to mention here that are a bit different. So just play through the story. Eventually you'll unlock add-on skills. When you unlock your add-on skills, you'll be given like a few to roll. It's like very, very small amount that you actually have. I think it's like the quest that tells you about it gives you like one to roll realistically. I can't remember exactly. It's been so long, so you guys are gonna have to forgive me on the exact methods of how this process completely starts. But it's fairly straightforward once you get it. They kind of walk you through, they tell you about add-on skills, they have you roll an add-on skill, so on and so forth. And of course, if you miss anything, you can just jump into the help guide and take a look at the add-on skills there. So what you're looking at doing is you want to generate add-on skills. There's two reasons why generating add-on skills are important. One, the effects they provide you, and two, they actually give your account a passive bonus because these are account-wide. You actually have a passive bonus from your add-on skills. So you see add-on skill boost. You have a passive 10% right here that is active all the time. I'm kind of in the way of it, so you guys can't see it, but active all the time there. That has no time frame of falling off or anything along those lines. So as long as you have add-on skills rolled, you will always have that 10% boost, and it's 1% per add-on skill you have rolled for each class. So definitely useful. The other reason is the effects themselves on the add-on skills, and a lot of the add-on skills have some really, really good effects. We're going to go over each of them individually. I'm going to talk about why some are important, why some are kind of like, meh. So starting off, we have Hunter. Hunter gives us melee weapon potency up, and then has a sub effect of PH charge movement speed up, HP recovery upon joining a trial, burn resistance up, and HP up. So you'll find a lot of times these recovery upon joining a trial tend to be kind of meh. I haven't seen anyone use these fairly well, and it's kind of what most would consider a dead roll. I guess I should mention this. Apologies. I thought it was kind of like obvious, but I'll mention it here just in case. But when you roll add-on skills, you roll one main effect and two sub effects. The main effect will always roll. The sub effects are 2 of the 4 you can roll, so it's RNG. When you roll the add-on skill itself, usually when we start, you only have add-on skill 1 generation. After you roll enough add-on skills, you get 2. If you roll enough, you get 3. I'm gonna be honest, with 4 and 5, I don't know what forces those to unlock, because by the time they had added 4 and 5 for us specifically, we'd already rolled hundreds of thousands of add-on skills. So they're like, hey, 4 and 5 is added, and they just showed up here. So I'm not sure if you'll have 1, 4, and 5, or if you'll have to roll a bunch of 1, or have to roll a bunch to get 4 and 5 unlocked. But I can tell you from my own experience, you do not have to roll 2 or 3 specifically, or you don't have to roll the lower tier to get the higher tier unlocked, right? So rolling 1 was enough to get 3 unlocked, even though I hadn't rolled 2 at all. What's the reason for rolling 1 primarily? Well, when you roll an add-on skill, you can only ever generate what you at least have in the main stat, and the sub stat, it can always be whatever, the add-on skill level is you're rolling. So for example, I roll an add-on skill, and let's say I get 12 in my main effect. I got a pretty lucky one, right? My first one. And then my sub effect is like, I don't know, 4 and 16 or something like that. Nothing too crazy, but I'm going to now have a main effect of 12 here, but my sub effect is still going to be 1. So if I roll this again, no matter what happens, I will always at least roll a 12 here, and the rest of these can be lower. So the whole point of this was to roll singles, because it's just one and it's RNG based, to push yourself higher. Now, the strategy when we first did this was you basically just roll add-on skill 1 over and over and over again, and by the time you unlock add-on skill 3, if you don't at least have level 15 generated of your skill that you're looking for, you roll add-on skill 3 once, because then it pushes it up to 15 immediately, because add-on skill 3 is a minimum generation of, I'm sorry, of 10, not 15. 15 was the 4 they added in. You roll add-on skill 3 once, and that allowed you to generate a level 10 or higher. So it at least let you get a level 10 add-on skill by default, which is pretty, I mean, in most cases, rolling enough add-on skill ones, you would get at least level 10. But if you were that unlucky, roll a 3, and then, you know, of course, you'd go on. And basically, the way you kind of run this is you would roll until you had at least a 10, and then you'd move on to the next one. You move on to the next one. You move on to the next one. I'd argue you at least roll everything once first just to get the 10%, and then go back and then start rolling them until you at least get to a 10, until add-on skill 3 unlocks, and then roll add-on skill 3 once everywhere to push everything to a 10, and then go back to rolling your add-on skill once. What that allows you to do is to get everything unlocked, which all the main effects are all very good, by the way. And then it allows you to have that bonus, that try boost essentially, at all times. And then of course, rolling add-on skill 3 doesn't cost you any more cubes, but it does cost you a bit more money. So it is 50k each roll. However, it does guarantee level 10 or higher. We're not really worried about sub effect here. We're worried about main effect for the most part. And then of course you want to get that main effect as high as you possibly can. So at that point, we were just rolling add-on skill 1s. So eventually they added in add-on skill 4. And what add-on skill 4 allows you to do is for 100x cubes for the price of your original roll, you guarantee 15 or higher. So if you're someone who's in the position where you just have gotten super unlucky and you're still below 15 on something, it is worth going ahead and just throwing 100x cubes at one of these to guarantee yourself a 15 or higher. What that allows you to do is then go back to rolling your 1s, and then of course just roll them over and over again until you get something that you're actually looking for. Then of course they added in add-on skill 5. I think, okay, so you guys are gonna have to correct me in the comments on this one. So I'm not sure if they added add-on skill 5 first and then 4, or 4 or 5 they added at the same time, or how that worked out, because I remember the master cube system being more, I don't want to say interesting, but interacting with it more than I did with add-on skill 4, but that could just be how I interacted with the system. But what this does is just guarantees a level 20 roll, so you get 20 main effect and 2 20 sub effects. It is RNG which of these you get, right? So you can still get pretty screwed over and get something that you really don't need as far as add-on skills go. So now they kind of have an idea of how you roll add-on skills and kind of the strategy of building yourself up when it comes to add-on skills. It is still RNG at the end of the day, so just keep that in mind. Some RNG may be good, some RNG might be bad. We're going to talk about the different add-on skills and what they do, and what sub effects I recommend for most players, and what niche sub effects you can use. So for Hunter, of course, it's weapon melee potency. If you're playing a striking class or a melee weapon class, you want to go ahead and make sure you get this rolled up. This is going to affect your overall damage. You also have PA charge movement speed up. This works with any PA that you charge, that you need to actively charge to move. So this is actually pretty useful, and it specifically says PA, not work with text. PA. To my knowledge, and I've checked this, and from what I've seen, this is the case. So unless you guys have evidence that shows otherwise, again, I'm not perfect. I get things wrong sometimes, but from what I understand, this is only PAs. My limited testing that I have done, this only works for PAs themselves. So it's mostly useful on Hunter, since they tend to have the most charged PAs. So this just increases your movement speed, because normally while you're charging, you move a little bit slower. This just increases that movement speed, so you're moving faster, which is very nice. HP recovery upon joining a trial, like I mentioned, kind of a dead stat. Burn resistance up, and then HP up. So these two are going to be kind of like staple. You're going to see usually an HP, and you're going to see a resistance. So the rule of thumb is, if you don't need the other sub effect, these are your two goals, to get the burn resistance and the HP up. And the reason why it's important is because effects kind of suck and there's no real way to get rid of them. And burn gives you a 10% debuff. Well, it makes it, I have to clarify this because people are going to say, well, actually, streamer, no. So technically it multiplies your damage by a factor of 0.9% or 0.9, which is a 10% debuff technically. So it's not how the numbers work out exactly, whatever, but you get the idea. It is a damage nerf, so you don't really want burn on you. Even if it doesn't kill you, even if it's not like something that's a big deal, you don't really want burn on you at all. So getting these two here, unless you're playing a hunter, someone who specifies with movement or with charge PAs, it's not really something that you need to worry about. This is kind of like your bread and butter, what you're going for. And I would argue more HP than burn resistance, but it's only like 1 point per HP level, and burn resistance are percentages, so it's up to you. I'll show you guys mine at the very end of what I actually use. So next we have Fighter. Fighter is actually very important to roll. Fighter gives you critical potency up for main effect. Very, very good. Sub effect. Now this used to be kind of troll because one of Bouncer's add-on skills, Encore Jump, allowed you to jump on a target over and over and over again for, you know, a minimal amount of damage. It was okay. It was something. But because you could spam it, you could add that damage in, and jump power up actually would troll you because you would jump higher, meaning you would not get back down your target faster. So this was a problem beforehand. That has since been changed as Encore Jump has been severely nerfed, and it basically only procs damage every so often. I think it's like once every second or second and a half, 2 seconds, something like that. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's been nerfed pretty substantially. So jump power up is no longer a troll. If you want just to have a higher jump, that's totally fine. I personally don't find it necessary most of the time. And in some situations, I find that the higher jump power actually messes with me a little bit because it messes with a few jumps that should be very easily just to kind of awkwardly double jump and be fine. Specifically, I'm thinking of MDFS right now, where Solus Rank 2 has those little platforms you jump up and on. And if you jump too high, you'll hit the top and you'll get hurt. So just keep that in mind. It's not a bad thing, but it's also no longer a troll, so you can use it if you want to. But freeze power or freeze resistance and HP up are both very important. I'd argue freeze resistance more because getting frozen completely stops you in your tracks, meaning you do 0 damage, which sucks. So you definitely want to deal with that. And of course, the PP recovery punch. Again, unless there's something I'm totally missing on these, I don't think this is useful in the slightest. So Ranger has range weapon potency up. So if you're playing range weapons, you definitely want to roll your Ranger add-on skills. Now, this is the first time where you have like a sub effect that's really, really useful for pretty much everyone. So Photon Blast potency up. You definitely want to pick this up, which tells you, okay, well, what do I do here? I've got shock resistance up and HP up. Which of these two do I decide? Well, that depends on the other add-on skills you roll. There are other add-on skills that will give you shock resistance up. And if that other skill gives you shock resistance up, then you want to go ahead and take the HP up here. You could also value the shock resistance, saying, you know what, I don't really care that much about HP. I'd rather get more shock resistance because I don't want to get shocked. And shock does interrupt your combos. It's kind of annoying. So it's totally understandable you don't want to be shocked. But there's also another caveat to these elemental resistances that I'll talk about after we go through all of this. So just keep that in mind, that it may not be something you have to worry too much about depending upon how you play and the situations you're dealing with. But HP up, pretty standard. You definitely want Photon Blast potency up. Very, very good. Gunner has offensive PB gauge accumulation up. Very, very nice. And then offensive PP recovery up. Also very nice. So you definitely do want to go for this specifically. This is going to make it so your PP recovery is a little bit better. I know there's a lot of classes that have really good PP recovery. They don't really worry about PP recovery, but having the little extra bit of a kick is always nice since it's mostly free. Again, it brings you up to the situation, well, I've got blind resistance and HP up, and the same thing applies. If we can get blind resistance somewhere else, we'll get the HP up. If we can't, we'll get the blind resistance up. If you're not worried about this, like say I play Force, right? And I have infinite PP and I never have PP problems. And I always have tons of PP in my gear and everything else. Well, then maybe you don't need offensive PP recovery up, but most people do. So I normally recommend going for it if you can. Force, we have technique weapon potency up. So if you're playing a tech class, you definitely want to roll your add-on skills for Force. Getting that up to 20 is going to be very, very important to get your maximum amount of damage. Natural PP recovery up, also very, very nice. Again, same thing applies from beforehand. Panic resistance, HP, and natural PP recovery up. I recommend this in every situation for every class, basically. But of course, you can adapt it to your playstyle specifically. Say, hey, look, I don't really need this. I can focus here on this, or on the HP, I can focus on these two, or so on and so forth. But if you don't get panic resistance up here, I recommend picking it up from another spot. Tector. So Tector is an interesting one. So we have natural PP generation accumulation up, which is very nice. This one also has damage resistance up. So this is one of the first few cases of a defensive utility being in the sub effect, meaning that you will take less damage the higher this is in level. So definitely very, very nice to have. Doesn't really make or break a character, but there are some times where you are just on the cusp of not being one shot by something, but still are one shot, and sometimes damage resistance up can make the difference in that situation. Or you could have so much negative damage resistance you really don't care about this stat whatsoever, and you go for the poison resistance and the HP up. So that is up to you. Poison resistance, poison's one of the I don't want to say weaker, but one of the Status effects I don't care about as much, at least from what I've noticed. It just deals damage, which is not like fire where it deals damage and inertia damage, at least from what I understand. So poison resistance, not a huge problem. But again, personal preference choice. Braver main effect critical hit rate up. Definitely roll this as soon as you possibly can. This makes a difference on how you actually approach your fixes, and on your fixes on your weapons and your armor and some of your augmentation situations, because that 10% can push you over a barrier that we currently are working on where is enough crit chance actually worth it. And this is worth it for every single class. The only time this isn't worth it is if you're using a Verse Melts for some reason, and for the love of God, please stop using that weapon. It is old, put it away. But yes, roll this. This main effect is very useful. Rest assign heal amount up, actually pretty nice. This is again defensive utility. This is something I recommend for everyone, kind of bar none, no questions asked. I find it very rare circumstance that people don't want rest assigns to heal them for more. That way they can just use a single rest assign. The one situation I can foresee being a bit different specifically is in a case where you're using the EX skill that gives you more damage if you're under half HP, and you want your rest assign to heal for as little as possible. That way you can go down really low and then pop a rest assign. But I believe even then you would still heal over your half HP. So something worth keep in mind. But I really think this is something that's useful for everyone. Then of course burn resistance up and HP up. See how we have burn resistance again? Remember beforehand we saw it over on Hunter? If we don't get it there, we can get it here. But if we got it here, or we got it on Hunter, right, we can skip it here and we can go for rest assign heal up because that's more useful to us, and HP up here. Bouncer. Oh, don't roll. I'm like predisposed to roll the add-on skill. Jesus. We have Encore Jump, freeze resistance, and HP up. So Encore Jump just allows you to jump on a target. Now this is still very useful to scale targets that are really tall. If you're next to a target and you can like jump on them, you will continue to jump up and up if you spam your jump on top of that target. So it's definitely worth having, I think, for just about everyone, not even for just the damage, but just for the utility alone, to be able to climb targets and scale targets to get to weak spots you need to. However, you can make the argument, hey, I'm range, I don't really care about that. I can, you know, of course, just be in an optimal spot and be able to deal damage from there. So it's up to you ultimately. I say it's worth for everyone, but your mileage may vary. We also have freeze resistance up. Freeze resistance, again, freeze is pretty important. If you don't grab it from the previous set, grab it from here. If you don't grab it from here, grab it from the previous set. It's up to you how you kind of go about that process itself. And then of course, HP up overall here. So for me, I think I grabbed Encore and HP. Or I might double up on freeze because freeze actually really sucks. Waker is PP up, so it's up to 20 PP, which is really nice. So get that up as much as you possibly can. Stationary HP recovery sucks. You have to be standing still and doing nothing with your weapon put away for like 3 seconds, if I remember correctly, which absolutely blows, and I would not recommend it in the slightest. Just go shock and HP up. One of the first times I'm like, this just doesn't do anything. I thought for a while like that would be nice for like rangers if they just stood still, but apparently your weapon has to be put away, which means it's completely pointless. And then Slayer, that got added in since last time we did this, guys, down critical hit rate up. Again, this kind of goes along with Braver, where you want to get this up as high as possible because that crit rate does kind of push you over a gap. And the thing about crit rate is that you're doing your most damage when a target is downed anyway. So you want to make sure that you have as many multipliers, modifiers, and big hits as you can during that down phase. That's why classes that currently aren't the best at doing damage during downs are suffering a bit when it comes to damage overall, versus classes who have a massive amount of damage they can do during downs, even if they're not the best at, like, you know, dealing with an active target. If a target gets knocked down and they can unload damage on it, you'll see they absolutely crush damage. So definitely want to get that up as high as possible. Reduce photon blast cooldown. This I feel like is a no-brainer must for everyone. One time reduce photon blast cooldown isn't really worth is in situations where, you know, you can only get one photon blast, but universally I feel like this is going to be useful for everybody, so I definitely recommend getting this. And this is one of the few times I'm like, you know what, I'd forego HP and make sure I have blind resistance. Blind absolutely sucks. Along with freeze, it's something that can stop you from dealing damage. Blind can basically cause you to miss, and you won't really notice it as much unless you're really paying attention to your numbers, but blind blows. So even if you have blind resistance up, it's one of the few times I would say, hey, you know what, take blind resistance up again, stack that up, because it's actually very useful. Unless for some reason it doesn't stack, but I'm pretty sure it stacks. We actually tested it. Almost positive it stacks. I don't foresee a situation, but I do leave the door open that I still could be wrong. It could have been biased. We do not have like numbers from in-game, or we don't have data mine numbers or anything along those lines that confirm or deny this process. Someone I'm sure in the comments can do that, or reference that, and feel free to DM me if you guys happen to have that information. I will leave a pinned comment if that's the case. But until then, blind resistance is what I would go in that situation. And I will show you guys my add-on skills. So for Hunter right now, we have HP and charge movement speed up. I mostly just rolled the 20, got the 20, I rolled the 15, got HP, and was like, I don't really care about the other one. I didn't really care about burn at the time because of what my weapon is, and I'll show you guys in a moment. But I should realistically care about the burn because it actually is a different type of burn, so it's actually kind of bad. But realistically, I would like to change this, if I could, to burn resistance. As you can see, you have up to 3 of these, by the way. And my other ones aren't that great. Like, yeah, see, here's my level 21, and it sucks. So I think what happened was I rolled my 20, I got this, and then I rolled a 15, and this is what I got, and I was like, I care more about the HP. Fighter, we have HP up and freeze resistance up, both at level 14. And I was like, you know what, I'll take that. That's fine. That's what I want to go for. Ranger, we have HP up and photon blast up at 15. Very nice. Haven't gotten range weapon potency up to 20, but I really don't play range weapons, so I'm not really too concerned about that. Now we have offensive PP gauge up. I think I just got lucky here. Yeah, I got lucky here. So offensive PP recovery up and HP up, both really, really good. And you can see the percentages here too, by the way, that are how much you're actually getting. 10% increased recovery, 20 added HP, and then of course 120% PP gauge up. I also got really lucky with my first one. I got HP and then natural recovery, which is exactly what I would have wanted. So 20 HP and then 10% natural recovery. Very, very nice. We rolled Tector. I didn't get super lucky here, but I got the damage resistance. So I took that because it's, you know, it's, what is it, 7.5% damage resistance basically, which is pretty powerful in my opinion. So that's just my take on the situation. I rolled my 20 and I got poison resistance and HP. So I was like, whatever, I'll roll a 15, see what I get. And this is what we got. So I'll keep rolling 15s until I get the combination that I want and kind of go from there. And Braver, we got our 20. I got Burn and then Rest Assign, and Rest Assign heal up being is like an extra 10% almost. It's 9.5, so it's really, really close. So I was like, you know what? Honestly, fine, not a big deal. I'll go ahead and go with that. And then Burn Resistance, you can see the percentage of it right here. Very nice. But I may eventually roll this, lose a little bit of this percentage, and then, you know, get some burn resistance up. But burn resistance isn't really a big deal for me personally. Bouncer, we have HP and Encore Jump. I just rolled 15%. I rolled level 15. I was like, you know what, that's fine. We'll just take those two. The other option is really not that important. So I was like, we'll go with this overall. I don't need to worry about freeze resistance. But realistically speaking, I think I'd rather have freeze resistance here because I'd rather just never get frozen. Waker, we have HP, PP, of course, and then I got a dead stat one, and I just haven't rolled since then. So we're just kind of chilling with the HP and kind of just living with it, you know. I think shock resistance, yeah, shock resistance. I really want to get that actually. So would love if I could replace these. I'd actually take 15 to 15 here over level 20 HP in that. So it's 5 HP that you're sacrificing, and I'm totally fine with that. And then Slayer, actually I think it's 10 HP, not 5, but whatever. Slayer, we still have got very lucky with this. So we have Photon Blast reduce cooldown, definitely useful. And then of course, I think Blind Resistance is our other one. Is it Blind Resistance? Actually, yeah, Blind Resistance, yeah. So I rolled HP, Blind Resistance, and down critical hit rate up. However, you really want the reduced Photon Blast cooldown. So reducing Photon Blast cooldown allows me to actually PB in situations that's super useful and helpful. And in some cases, if I am getting enough uptime, I'm able to actually generate my PB back before it comes off cooldown in some situations. That mixed with Origis and everything, it makes it really useful. So I definitely go for a reduced Photon Blast cooldown, but I mean, I would take 15 in both these spots. It kind of sucks having this here because Blind Resistance is also really nice. Ideally, I think I would have reduced Photon Blast cooldown and Blind Resistance because I can forego the 20 HP. I did mention there was a reason why you could care a little bit less about your status effects and status ailments. And it's because of this specific EX skill here. So I mentioned in a previous video, we talked about it beforehand tons of times, but Hysterical Strength, Short Edge PP burn. Whenever you consume 100 PP, you give yourself a burn. that burn has the burn potency decrease nullified, basically meaning that it doesn't give you that damage nerf just for being burned. So the reason why you can kind of ignore things is because it's not that you can't be status affected if you have a status effect, it's that you can overwrite the status effect. But if you can't spend PP, you can't overwrite the status effects, right? So if I'm frozen, I can't overwrite the status effect. If I'm being shocked, it's much more difficult for me to overwrite the status effect. But if I get burned by something else, because yes, a regular burn can overwrite my burn. If I get burned by something else, if I get, poisoned, if I get stunned, also sucks, by the way. If I get confused or anything along those lines, I can overwrite that status effect with my burn status effect here, and then it takes over. However, I've found with foregoing all of the resistance to these, you end up in a situation where you get status effect all the time, and you're like fighting to stay with the status effect you want to stay with. Now, granted, hysterical strength is procna as long as you have a status effect, but you really don't want any status effect other than this burn specifically, because this is where you're getting most of your effects from. So just something to keep in mind here. I did say I wanted to try to yap a little less in this video, but we still yapped pretty long. It was a lot to cover, apologies, but it is all important. It all is all relevant. And this, like I said, is a one-stop shop video you can give to anyone who is a bit newer to the game that is looking to figure out how to roll their add-on skills and what they should be going after. Hopefully it helps out someone out there. If I missed anything, feel free to toss it in the comments below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video. So if you want to keep up with more, thanks again to my channel members. You guys are fantastic. And I'll see all my wonderful individuals later. Take care, my friends. Peace out.